Thank you, Dr. Rai, for reiterating the relevance of Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. May I have the pleasure of inviting our Chief Speaker, Professor Rajeev B.Ahuja, President, Isbi, to deliver his talk. Professor Ahuja is the head of Department of Burns and Plastic Surgery, LN Hospital and MAMC. He is also the President of the International Society for Burn Injuries and the Secretary General of IPRAS, Asia Pacific Section. Dr. Ahuja's experience in plastic surgery spans 3 decades, where he has headed the most prestigious department in the specialty. He has led many clinical trials, and several of his innovative surgical procedures are published in leading journals. Dr. Ahuja is on the editorial board of several journals, including JPRAS, Burns, Annals of Burns and Fire Disaster, etc., and has also served as the President of Association of Plastic Surgeons of India and the National Academy of Burns, India. He is one of the earliest recipients of the State Award from Government of NCT of Delhi for Excellence in Service. Dr. Ahuja is an expert with WHO, CDC USA, Healing Foundation UK, Global Alliance for Cookstops, ICMR. He has been an invited faculty and guest speaker at over 160 meetings nationally and internationally. His special interests within the specialty include aesthetic surgery, reconstructive surgery, clefts and burns. So,
thank you very much, ma'am, for such a generous introduction and lengthy one. Dr. Tapan Chand, Professor Amit Banerjee, other dignitaries on the dais, and so many dignitaries off the dais. It's a great privilege to be here amongst you all in this state, which I'm visiting for the first time. I have been several times around the world, several times around the country, but this was the state which was missing in my travel list, and which has been completed now. And I'm utterly pleased as soon as I stepped down from the airport and I saw the surroundings, the roads, the development which is taking shape, and to be informed that Bhubaneswar is going to be the first smart city to be on the job. It's very impressive. And I'm even more impressed looking at so many medical students here, and I'll be addressing to you, and please don't go off to sleep, and I will see to it that you don't sleep. And you know why? It's because burns demand attention. That is the slogan of this seminar today. Burns demand attention. And whose attention? It's the attention of the physicians, the caregivers, the administrators, the politicians, and the entire society. Why do they need attention? Now we have to dwell on that. And at the end of this talk, which I don't want to make too lengthy, if a handful of you get motivated to get into burn specialty, the job will be done. I'm not here to just give a lecture for the sake of giving a lecture or for inaugurating something. There should always be a purpose in doing something. And my purpose here is, after looking at you people, that I should motivate a few of you to get into burns as a specialty. So let's dwell on this. Why do burns need attention? Do you know that burn is an accident? 95-96% of burns are accidents. Very few are homicidal or suicidal. 95-96% is an accident. And accidents are preventable. And when accidents are preventable, why should we have burns? So this demands the attention of the entire society, that we prevent such accidents in the first place. I'm ashamed to share with you that India is the burns capital of the world. If the incidence of burns in the world is doubled, India alone will have more burn patients than that. Can you imagine? It's not just because of our population. It's because of several factors. It's because of our social practices. It is because of the illiteracy that we have in our country. It's because of the poverty that we have in our country. We don't have access to so many resources. The fuel sources we use in our kitchen are still biogas or kerosene. LPG and piped natural gas is still a pipe dream for many citizens in the country, which makes our kitchens very unsafe. So this is the responsibility of the administrators and the politicians. They have to work towards the economy, developing the economy. We have to work towards preventing the burns. And we once wrote a research paper internationally, and we have shown that as there is an economic prosperity, the incidence of burn goes down. And we have shown in our unit that over the last 15 years, the incidence of burns coming to our unit has gone down as the economic prosperity has gone up, because the fuel that you use in your kitchens changed from kerosene to LPG. Very pleasing that the first paper on this, there are two papers on this, and the first paper on this was authored by Dr. Dash. So he's one of the co-authors to bring this about, the change which was brought in the incidence of burns with the introduction of LPG stoves. Now the question is, when I say that India is the burn capital of the world, and I explained to you that this is the kind of a magnitude that we have of the incidence, we have a totally different profile of burns than from the Western countries. We have burns, average mean total body surface area of the burns is in excess of 40% around the country. You understand? Mean body surface area burns, average is more than 40% TBSA. Whereas in the Western world, it is less than 20% TBSA. It's very easy to save a burns less than 20% TBSA. In fact, many units in our country, including mine, we don't even admit burns less than 20% TBSA in adults, because they can be resuscitated by oral fluids and they can be managed by outpatient dressings. Because the incidence is so high, I cannot admit so many patients. Our profile is totally different. And if you read all the papers in the journals which are published from this country, 40 to 50% of these patients are dying. The incidence of death in the Western world is 2 to 3 or 4%, because they have less TBSA burns, and our incidence is 40 to 50% patients, they are dying. And those who don't die, what happens to them? They are rendered disabled for rest of their lives, because so many reconstructive procedures are required to bring them back to function in the society, that you find many of them have their homes which are crushed, finished, and they are begging on the streets. I think we need a paradigm change in our country, in our thought towards this injury, which is preventable, which has not received enough attention so far from administrators and politicians, but the change is happening. You can see the change has happened in Odisha. The burn unit which you have here in this medical college is the best in the country. And I am not saying this because Dr. Dash is my student and he has done it. It's not that. But I am very proud that he went abroad He spent 4-5 weeks there in one of the best units in Birmingham of UK, and he's tried to replicate it. I've been to that unit where I sent him. He's tried to replicate that, and it's fantastic. And you provide services at such low cost. I think it is his vision, which is shared by your president of the university, Dr. Manoj. Because if the vision of the doer is not shared by the vision of the person who provides and gives, then nothing can be implemented. So I think you're very fortunate to have such world-class facility in this part of the city. I was telling you about the disability in burns. Let me share some statistics with you. Do you know that WHO has published that 8% of the Nepalese population is disabled? They have done a study there. 8% of the Nepalese population is disabled, and 10% of this disability is because of burns. You think if a similar study was done in India, you think our statistics will be any different? They'll be identical. And you understand absolute numbers? Consider the absolute numbers. If 5% of the Indian population or 8% of the Indian population is disabled and 10% of it is because of burns, in absolute numbers, consider how huge that number is. How much of a social burden this is on the society. You may think that there is nobody burnt in your family, so it doesn't cost you. No, but it is costing you because you are a taxpayer. They are getting treated somewhere. They are a social burden on the entire society. So either we prevent them, and if something happens, for God's sake, then we treat them effectively. The quality of life a burn patient leads after recovery is drastically lower than his previous quality of life here. Whereas the quality of life in the developed world post-burn almost nears normal. Such a radical and drastic difference. But like I said, things are changing. I'm very optimistic. Things are changing. And I have hope in you people. The problem is that burns is not taught as a subject to general surgeons. Burns is not taught as a subject to undergrads. You're all MBBS students. Are you taught burns? Why not? And here's the opportunity, Professor Banerjee. You should have burns program in MS surgery, in MBBS, maybe 1 or 2 lectures.
We had started in West Bengal University.
Yes.
To replicate the same.
Exactly. I think it is most essential. The UGC should understand this. This is the basic training. The magnitude of burns. I'm not showing a PowerPoint presentation, but I have it on my PowerPoint presentation. The magnitude of burns in India is no less than HIV in numbers and in disability and in mortality. I can show it by figures. It is no different. I'm not saying HIV is not important to control. It is very important to control, and NACO has done a very good job of controlling this. Now we have to get together to control, prevent burns and to treat it effectively. There was no attention paid to this by the government, unfortunately, till last 3-4 years when a national program